Cecilia, good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Good afternoon for you. Good morning here from California. Good morning, everybody who connected here with our last Fabric Talk series, right? The last one of this series. More series will come later, but this
Right?
is the last one for this series. Thank you for joining us. My name is Armando Lacerda, and I'm here with my friend
Cecilia Versatori,
from California. And
Florida. I cannot say sunny Florida right now because it's raining every day. So
it's raining every day. Look at that. I used to live in Florida, and my recollection is like you have a patch of rain and rains for like 30 minutes, and then it's sunshine again, and then it's raining again, and then it's sunshine again.
right now it's sunshine the whole morning and raining storm the whole afternoon. So it's like we have a
Yeah, you guys are blessed. You know what? Here in California, Northern California now, it's dry season, but I just got some showers, little showers, but I just got some showers. All right, so here we are for our last talk of this. Let me see. Having trouble to put this. There we go. Now we go. You. This is the one that I want to have. I
that's
think I
the
have to
demo.
remove mine and add yours. There we go.
Yes.
So here we are to our last talk of this series, right? Today is the last one on the Microsoft Fabric Scaling SQL DBAs. Cecilia, what about the other ones? If someone is joining us for the first time, just heard about this series, what about the other ones?
So we have the recordings on my channel on YouTube if you want to check them out. But also on LinkedIn, you have the recordings under your profile, right, Armando? I'm not sure if a LinkedIn saves that.
It
So
does. It's there, but
okay,
we had technical issues on the first one. So you have the complete series.
okay,
If you are on LinkedIn, you have 5 of the 6 in here. But if you want to check the very first one, you got to head to YouTube and follow Cecilia's down here. Follow Cecilia's channel, her business, Magna Data, right, Cecilia?
correct. Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
I mean, if you give us feedback, we can maybe do more talks. Who knows, or in the
Yeah.
future. So
We
yeah.
can definitely we will definitely do some more. This partnership here worked pretty well. I love this session together, Cecilia. But so let's jump into the topic of the day, right? You have just little time.
Yeah.
Well, go
So
ahead.
yeah, I mean, let's talk about the fabric for the DBAs actually, right? For the SQL DBAs. So Armando, where do we find SQL in Fabric? So if I'm a DBA and I'm new to Fabric, I mean, where do I find SQL here? Where do I go? I mean, from
That's
here.
that's a great question, Cecilia. Especially because Fabric came from this. Fabric adopted the Power BI's interface. So when people talk Fabric, most people think about Power BI, right? I was in Power BI. Power BI is there. Reports are there. We want to have those reports. So Fabric is to many people, Fabric is pretty close, very associated with Power BI. But most people don't realize that Fabric is a collection of data engines. There are other data engines inside Fabric, other than the semantic model, right? The semantic engine, the very pack engine that powers Power BI. And one of those engines, and last time I counted, I found 8. Maybe there are more there. But among all of those engines, we do find a SQL Server there in Fabric in 2 fashions, actually 3 fashions. So let's take a look. Let's head to Fabric and take a look on that one. Let's remove that guy and this one. There we are. So when you get here in Fabric, Fabric, like I said, it borrowed from Power BI concepts, many concepts from Power BI. One of them is to have a workspace. So anything you're going to do in Fabric, you're going to head to a workspace. Is it big enough, Cecilia, for people to see? Can you see it well?
I believe so. It's okay. Yes.
Okay, cool. So in here, for instance, for this workspace I created for these talks, we already see here 1, 2, right? You got this one, this one. We got 2 SQL names in here, and this one is a SQL database, and this one is a SQL analytics. There is another one which is not here. Let me go ahead and pick it here for us to see, which is this guy here, the warehouse. So I'm going to create one here empty just for us to see. Simple. Uh, let's call it SQL warehouse. There we go. So it's creating, you gotta leave it there, go back to the workspace. So there we are. We find, to your question, Cecilia, where do we find SQL Server? We find SQL Server in three distinct flavors, right? Three distinct different models in Fabric. One of them is the SQL Analytics endpoint, right here. This guy here, right here, SQL Analytics endpoint. The other one is the one I just created, the warehouse. So this is what used to be known as a SQL Server Parallel Data Warehouse. And if you were in Azure, right before Synapse, before Fabric, it was the Azure SQL Data Warehouse that became the dedicated SQL pool. And now it is known as the warehouse in Fabric. So this is a SQL engine behind this one. And we have the one of the day, which is this guy here, which is Azure SQL, which is SQL in Fabric, right? Here it's called SQL Database, but in the documentation and posts out there, you're gonna see people referring to that one as SQL in Fabric. So there we go. So we have these three, right?
Well,
There you go. Yeah.
what about mirroring? Where does
Mirroring.
it fit?
That's a great question. Let me get it here just quick. Click on this
I
one.
saw it when you clicked on new item. We saw a mirroring option there.
Yeah, let's take a look on that one. So if I click here on new and I filter this one here to SQL again, right? You notice this one here, right?
Correct.
Mirror Azure SQL database. So these ones, Fabric is an analytical platform, right? The main goal for Fabric is to work with very large data volume. If you have a small, we of course is going to help you there, but it's designed to work with very large data volumes. And to get this data into Fabric, you have to bring the data in. So there are multiple ways to bring data into Fabric, right? You can have streaming data, you can have multiple ways. One of the ways is to use this technique called mirroring, which we actually, if I change it from SQL to mirror, you see, I have
Oh.
mirror for Databricks, I have mirror for Postgres, I have mirror for Azure SQL, the regular Azure SQL database, the managed instance SQL. So mirroring is not a SQL engine per se. It's definitely not a SQL engine. Mirroring is a resource in Fabric that will connect to external databases and bring the data into Fabric. There are specialized ones, right? Dedicated ones that we're seeing there. And there is the generic one, that's this one here, mirror databases. So if you have another database that's none of the other ones, use this guy here
Amazing.
to get information here. Super cool. It's super cool. But
Yeah.
it's not SQL, right? This is something else.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I wasn't sure.
Of course, everybody has, we all have these
Right.
questions.
So we can say that the DBA, as a DBA, my work is not going away, right?
Oh, as a
I
DBA, you have plenty of work here in Fabric, and that's one of the
awesome.
things we need to make it clear, right, for everybody. I think that the reason for this sessions we are doing here and the workshops we offered is to help people have people that are already working with the companies, the enterprise data, and get them onboarded in Fabric so they can keep doing what they're already doing and doing more. Like when we go into Fabric, we get this data coming from SQL, and they land in here. Like when I have here a demo database that will be playing some demos in the field, but the data that is in this database here, this SQL database, is the actual Azure SQL DB, right? It's the actual transactional database. But to do analytical, to run analytical processes on top of this, we want to get a copy of this data someplace else so we can work with that copy. And this is what is happening here, right? When you create a transactional database inside Fabric, a copy of that data is stored within Fabric on one lake, so we can do analytical on that one. So let me explain that from another perspective to make it clear. It goes like this: if I am working in a lake house, which I don't have one here, but if I'm working with a lake house is not a SQL database. And because a lake house is not a SQL database, I cannot work with lake house like like they were SQL. So Microsoft created this shell on top of the lake house called the SQL Analytics endpoint. This guy here. So this guy exposes some elements inside Fabric as they were SQL databases. So
It's
it's like a
our
facade.
middleman.
A middleman, yeah,
Okay.
a tier
It's
in between a
translating.
middleman, a facade
Mhm.
to make someone or something else behind the scenes look like SQL, right? So when you say SQL analytic endpoints, the main thing to keep in mind for the DBAs around is every time you connect to any SQL analytic endpoints in Fabric, they are read only, right?
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, the only purpose for SQL analytical endpoints is to serve data to Power BI, to Excel, to Tableau, to whatever, right? Whenever any application that you want to only serve data, you cannot do updates, deletes, or inserts through SQL analytic endpoints. Now,
Mhm.
if you are using one of the other two, right? If you're using the warehouse or the SQL database, right? The SQL in Fabric, then when you connect there, you can do all the operations. But here, Cecilia, and to everybody that's following us, here's a very important point. You the SQL warehouse, right? Our warehouse, it's not designed for granular transactions, like insert one customer, insert one transaction, I sold one ticket for the workshop. It is not for granular transactions. It does not operate well. It supports, you can try, you runs, but it hurts performance because it's not designed for that, right? The SQL warehouse is designed for analytical, like you had data volume in there, and you're going to do a lot of analyticals inside it using transact SQL. If a company, and here's the beauty of Fabric in this particular point, if my company, let's say I'm a medium company, I have like 200 departments, and my departments, they need the SQL database to support the Power App application they're putting up, and they want you to get the data stored in SQL Server, they could call IT people and say, no, can I have a SQL DB in Azure so I can do that? Or if they have Fabric, they can come here in Fabric and say, you know what? What is my cursor here? You know what? I want to have a SQL. I already have Fabric, so I have permissions in Fabric. I'm administrator of a workspace, like you taught us the other day, right, Cecilia, on how to do governance in this. And I can come in here and say, you know what? I want to have a Azure SQL database. This guy here. This I'm all the time saying Azure SQL because this is the equivalent of Azure SQL in Azure. And this one here, it's a general purpose compatible one, kind of the same performance depending on your capacity behind Fabric. So if I click in here and I have, I have Fabric and I have administrator of this workspace, I can create a SQL database this simple, right? My SQL DB for my app. So just the name, and you click. Now I reach the maximum because I have I have other ones in there. But just by clicking on it, then I get the
I
database
get
there.
it.
And once the database in there, I can work with that SQL in Fabric like it is any other SQL database, Cecilia.
That's amazing. So I don't have to worry about the configuration on Ash or anything. Everything is done from Fabric. I can set it up. What about if I want to scale up? I mean, that depends on the capacity, right? There's a Fabric capacity that I'm using that I need to scale up.
Exactly. The Fabric capacity is the one that will regulate the Fabric capacity and the parallel workloads, right? Like you may have a Fabric
Hmm.
capacity that's small, but if the capacity is kind of quiet, it may support your demand on SQL. But if you have lake houses and warehouses and Power BI and everything else on the same capacity, then you may have to expand the capacity to support all your workloads. So
So
yes, two
i-
factors: the capacity and the parallel workloads.
so in that case, let's say that I want a separate capacity for my SQL DB. Can I do that with the same workspace, or should I set up a different workspace for this?
Different workspace. One workspace can be connected to only one capacity. So different
Okay,
workspace.
awesome. That's great to know.
Very
So,
cool, right?
can you show us this? I mean,
Oh
more.
yeah, yeah.
How do I interact with these databases? I
So
mean,
you
what?
are a SQL DBA, right? This is like
Yeah,
Fabric is calling
this is
SQL DBAs. If
exciting.
you are a SQL DBA person, you are connecting to your databases using SSMS. So you know what I did? I went online before this session here. I searched for a entity relationship model, found this one here, and I used Copilot, in Visual Studio Code to create a script to give this image to Copilot, say, give me a script to create these tables. And Copilot went along and played played with me,
That's so
and
cool.
here we go. I got the script there. I did not write one of these lines. Copilot did all of these things for me. So
That's amazing.
it's super fun.
We can even have Copilot interacting with SQL, right? I mean, if we
we
need
do, we do. That's another
on
session.
Fabric, right? We should do like we did the Power BI and Copilot. Now we need to do the SQL DB and Copilot.
Let's see if the people watching these videos, following along here, if they want to see that. If you want to see that, leave a comment there. Let us know, give a feedback, and we'll put it together. So I came along here and create this script. So now I want to connect to the database to run this script in the database. So I go back to Fabric. Here's my Fabric. Here's the database, which I have already done it, but just to show you the process, I'm going to click in here. And I say, you know what? I want to connect to this thing using SSMS or
Ooh.
using Visual Studio Code, one of the two. So I'm going to go here on SSMS, and it gives me the server name, which is a very weird name, right? Like they have so many customers out there, so they have to generate this random stuff in here. Hard to document, but it works. So I can just copy this thing from here into SSMS. Let's go and connect, which is already there. And the database is also already here. Now, I know this is super small. I cannot zoom in. Sorry. Let me see if I can zoom in. I don't think I can. No, I cannot. Actually, kind of a zoom a little bit, but
Yeah, a little bit.
yeah. So put them in here, and my account, I'm gonna go and connect. And now I'm connected to that database in Fabric. This guy here is in Fabric.
Ooh.
Now, don't be fooled, right? This is Azure SQL Database. It's not SQL Server on-premise. So not everything you do in SQL Server on-premise will work here. And not everything you do in Azure SQL Database will work in here, right? In terms of management, all the SQL queries will work just fine. But in terms of management, there are some management tasks, we don't have time to go along, that will not work in here, but most of them will, right? Like if I browse here, I'll see these tables that these scripts have created. These are the tables, and I can right click these tables and check for the properties of the tables, get the scripts. Let's see the storage for this is compression, just compression. Cancel. But if you compare, the right click and the options we have here with the on-premise SQL Server, they're different, right? They are smaller. But there are some other things we can do, like this Azure SQL database that is begging for DBAs to come and learn how to do with these things so they can help the application deployments on a smaller scale in Fabric, right? This is not for high demand. It's small to medium scale. If you have 1 million transactions per second, this is not it, right? You're gonna find something else. But to small to medium scale, this is the way to go. And the DBAs, you are welcome to come in here and start using this. Look in the query store. Query store is available there. You can look at the query store statistics. Let me see overall consumption. Let's take a look on this guy here. See if it pops up. Going once, going twice. Nah, didn't show yet. For whatever reason, didn't show. But these things are available here for you. But in the portal itself, now that we know how to connect there, in the portal itself, if I go into the database, I do have here this button for performance summary. And this is an interesting one because most of the things I need to know about how is the capacity being used, right? And how is the demand on top of a SQL server, they show from here, right? As you can
Mm.
see here, I have 6 simultaneous connections at this moment, right? On this database. I have 31 queries per second coming through. So it's not that much, but I did create some workload to help us see, this statistics information coming in. This is how the size of my database at this point. Azure SQL database can grow depending on the capacity, right? It can grow from 16 terabytes to a very large one, depending on. Actually, 16 terabytes is the max you can have, but this data that lands in Azure SQL database also goes to OneLake. So the mirroring between these two, it's not charged. There is no extra price for the storage, for the double storage. So we can do analytic on top of this data if we want. And so we can come in here and see, get more details on this, see how that's going. What did I get? CPU consumption. I thought there would be more stuff in here. Let's see. Yeah. The graph did not plot, which is interesting. Let's see transactions. Now I got some transactions going on here. Oh yeah, got some transactions. Look at that. I hit it up to 320 transactions per second, which is pretty cool. And for the DBAs and for the people working with Azure, with Fabric, SQL and Fabric, here's another interesting take. This query here has executed this much, and this query here has executed this much, 10 million times, which is a query that I created, just to create some workload in here, and then some other small work, another query, some smaller queries. So right from here, right from the portal, I don't even have to open SSMS. As a DBA, I can come here and start looking into the queries that are in higher demand. And if my user starts complaining, or asking for help on the performance of these things, I can come here and easily see this. And most importantly, when it comes to price, we pay for the capacity. So using this, you don't have to pay extra. But as it runs, it's chipping off capacity power. So SQL in Fabric will chip off per query. So each one of these queries, when they run, they consume CPUs, right? They consume whatever they consume. And I can check which queries are running the most and are consuming more, and what I can do for it to consume less, so I can help Fabric to work better for everybody that's connecting Fabric.
This is amazing. So I have like embedded analytics of my SQL DB here.
Right in here. And all these metrics, they can be collected from the metadata, can be collected from a side query, and you can have that in Power BI.
What about log?
Log of what?
Can I restore anything in? Do I have
Yeah.
to take care of logs, of backups as a
Backup
DBA,
is done
or?
for you. It's a great question. Backup is done for you. You don't have to worry about backups. If you need to
Amazing.
restore, there is it does transactional log backups every 6 hours, I think, and it keeps retention of the database for 30 days. So you can go back and restore the database up to 30 days and point in time for a week. It's the same benchmark for Azure SQL DB. So you don't have to worry about any of this, right? The whole backup is done for you. If you need to, you just go and restore.
That's excellent news. Thank you. So
Nice,
so
right?
so how does SQL DBA support SQL in Fabric? What other tools do we have? We have a SQL Server Management Studio. We have all these portals. Do
All
we
the
have anything
tools
else?
that you already use with Azure SQL DB, they're compatible with this. The
Amazing.
software house, there again, you don't have the same features for management. There are some limitations in there, and most software houses out there that they offer management tools for SQL environments, they are adapting to this as well. So you can connect as they are today, and some of their visualizations, analyticals may not work, but they will get specialized in Fabric. Keep in mind, Cecilia, I forgot to mention that this feature is still in preview. So you should be using this to get acquainted to it, to understand how it works, but it's not ready for production yet. So that's the game, right? To be ready for when the opportunity shows up, right? When this thing comes live, and we don't know when it's coming live, maybe this year, next year, I really don't know. But when it comes live, the demand will be super high. So get into this as
Yep.
fast as you can, so you can get ready for that. Cecilia, let me show you this. We have these tools, right? We just asked about, but there
Uh-huh.
is this thing here also called the automatic index. I tried,
Oh,
I tried to, yeah, I did not. I tried to force it because it's on demand, so I tried to force a lot of queries on this, but apparently it did not work. But as people use your database, like, or the end user create the database themselves, so they are they are not DBAs, you are. And the people watching this video, they are the DBAs, but the regular users may not. So SQL will try to create indexes based on demand, as people query the database, as they use the database. I didn't, yeah, I think it was too
so
late.
it's going to manage those index if the index is not longer used. I mean, removing,
Yep.
updating. It does all for me. That's great.
You see, yeah, it does all of that for you. But again, these are great tools. They are automated tools. They will work like AI. They work 90% of the time, 95% of the time. But sometimes we need to come in here and see what's going on. So perhaps it has made a wrong decision, like a trainee would have, and then we could go reverse course and make things better.
We still
So
have to
these
monitor
things,
AI.
implement the DBA is really, really, really important there.
Yeah. So I can see here that the difference with the warehouse that we mentioned last time, that we cannot do the indexing in the warehouse, right? And here,
Yep.
of course, because this is a SQL DB.
Exactly. Like that session, I think was the second or the third one.
Mhm.
We look into the warehouse, and the warehouse is a different ball game, right? It's one lake, it's delta tables, it's crude on top of immutable data sets, and we have time travel, have all of those things that a DBA needs to get acquainted with to support the warehouse. Here is the regular SQL. We do have indexes. We do have, all the features that we already have on a regular SQL database.
This is amazing. I can't wait for this to be on public, on GA. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
general availability.
we don't have to wait for it to come GA to start having fun with it, right? We can have fun
Uh-huh.
with it right now, and we should. Again, you train, you get ready, so when the opportunity comes, when demand shows up, you're good to get there, right? And I highly recommend everybody watching this to take a look and try it out, right? Create do like I did, right? Go on the web, find a model, ask AI to create the scripts, and start. Actually, you can actually ask AI to, GitHub Copilot to generate the scripts to create the schema, and to generate the scripts to populate the schema.
That's amazing. That's
That's what I
amazing.
did.
Yeah, that's it. The great use of AI
There
and
we go.
Copilot.
Hey, look at that. We are up time already. Time
Yes,
flies when we're having fun. Did you
this
get
was.
any questions through YouTube?
I don't see any questions. I see people keep joining, but
That's
if
great. Thanks for
yeah,
joining. Yeah.
yeah, if there are
So this
any
is it, right,
questions,
Cecilia? This is the last one of this series. We gonna take a break, and we're gonna schedule some other ones, and we announce when they come live again, right?
yes, yes, I can wait. And we have the workshops next week. So
Yes,
if
and I'll be in town next week. If you are interested, please come and join us. And it will be great to have you there and have live hands-on on all of these topics we have been talking about this past 6 weeks. All right. Again, thank you so much for joining our live sessions. I hope you have had fun with these live sessions, like myself and Cecilia. Was super cool. I got here a comment through LinkedIn from Ed English. Thank you, Ed,
Ed,
for the compliment. And I will see you in the next one. See you next week
yes,
in
see you
Florida.
everyone.